There are days when just looking around the house is enough to exhaust a senior. Not because the house is too messy, and certainly not because they're lazy, but because after years of trying, organizing, shifting, storing, it still feels like the clutter never really goes away. At 60, 70, or even 80, cleaning isn't just a task anymore. It becomes a quiet conversation with the past, a deep sigh before letting go of an item that looks small but holds so much meaning. And perhaps the saddest part is this. Many people think they're organizing to tidy up, but in truth, they're just holding on to everything in silence. Today's video from Senior Rise is for anyone who's ever felt that way. You won't find fridge labeling tips or sock folding tutorials here. Instead, you'll discover 9 fresh approaches, simple, thoughtful, and easy to begin, yet powerful enough to completely change the way you relate to your home. Some of these may stir emotion, some may bring up old memories, but all of them come from real experience, real stories, like the one you're about to hear from Martha. So if you've ever walked around your home, unsure of where to start, watch this video all the way through. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, so each week you can receive gentle reminders and practical insights to help make life after 60 tidier, lighter, and more joyful. Hack 1. The 10-minute rule. How Martha started with a drawer and changed her whole home. Martha, 68 years old, lives alone in a 3-bedroom house in suburban Oregon, the same house where she and her late husband raised 3 children. After her husband passed and her kids moved on with their own lives, she stayed behind, surrounded by decades worth of belongings from nearly 40 years of marriage. For a long time, she woke up every morning feeling overwhelmed, not because of back pain, not because of stress, but because everywhere she looked, she felt like she should be doing something, and yet didn't know where to start. The kitchen was packed, the living room overflowed with books and papers, and the garage, she didn't even dare open the door. She had tried the "let's tackle a whole room this weekend" method, and every time it ended in disappointment. But one day, she came across a line that was incredibly simple. Just 10 minutes a day, no organizing, no rearranging. Just decide what to let go. She thought to herself, 10 minutes, I could try that. So she started with one random kitchen drawer, the kind we all have, full of rubber bands, expired coupons, dead batteries, and pens that no longer work. She set a timer for exactly 10 minutes, grabbed a trash bag, and during those 10 minutes, no sorting, no saving, no second-guessing, she asked only 2 questions. Have I used this in the past 12 months? Does this serve my life today? If the answer was no to both, she tossed it. No debate. 10 minutes passed quickly. But when that first bag filled up, Martha felt something shift. Not a sudden lightness, but a small flicker of motivation. Enough to make her do it again the next morning. And so she did. 10 minutes every morning, like a quiet ritual, right after coffee, before the day truly began. Within a month, she had transformed her kitchen, her bathroom, and even her entryway. That heavy feeling of, I'll never finish this in my lifetime, was replaced with small, daily victories. She once shared, strangely, I don't remember a single item I threw out, but I remember exactly how I felt breathing easier every morning. Have you ever felt like Martha, where the starting point feels too small to call progress, yet too important to ignore? You can try this tomorrow. Just one drawer, one small bag, and 10 minutes of honest clarity. Hack 2. The memory box. Honoring without holding on. After a few weeks of sticking to her 10-minute rule, Martha reached a deeper layer. The items she didn't use anymore, but couldn't bring herself to throw away. Her late husband's scarf, a handwritten birthday card from her son when he was 7, a faded apron from her days teaching cooking at the church. These things were scattered throughout the house, tucked in drawers, hidden behind bookshelves, even inside an old cookie tin under the bed. Martha called them threads of memory, and she realized if she didn't create a clear system for keeping them, she would end up keeping everything again. So one day, she created a new personal rule, a ritual she later called her intentional memory keeping. She bought 3 beautiful wooden boxes, not too large, and she gave each one a name. Family, my husband, teaching journey. She allowed herself to keep only the items that truly represented each chapter, not everything, just the essence. The birthday card stayed, but the stacks of crumpled childhood drawings were photographed, then released. The apron stayed, but the original receipts from her 1993 cooking class, gone. Martha explained, I realized keeping everything didn't bring me closer to the past. It only made the present heavier. And something beautiful happened. When she gathered her memories into a space that honored them, they became sacred, no longer buried beneath cords, papers, and broken gadgets. She even created a digital photo album, a gentle place to preserve the items she let go of, but never forgot. Now, imagine this. If someone were to open your closet today, would they see your past lovingly preserved in clear, meaningful ways? Or would it be hidden, buried under clutter and dust? Keeping memories is beautiful, but keeping them with intention, within limits, that is an act of self-love and maturity. If there's a sentimental item you've been struggling with, share its name in the comments below. You never know. Saying it out loud might just be the first step to honoring it, or gently letting it go. Hack 3. Reverse shopping. Bringing things backward. Saturday morning, Martha went to the store and saw a set of storage boxes on 50% discount. They were neat, stylish, had handles and click-on lids. Without thinking much, she grabbed 3 of them. Back home, she happily started rearranging the kitchen drawers, her closet, even the spice rack. But that afternoon, as she sat down on her armchair and looked around the house, something felt strange. It wasn't actually tidier. Everything was just repositioned, but still there. Still the same old items, still the excess, still that feeling of being overwhelmed, only now stored in new containers. That's when she placed her hand on her forehead and quietly asked herself, maybe I don't need more storage, maybe I need less stuff. From that moment on, Martha shifted her mindset. She made a commitment, simple but incredibly disciplined. Every time she wanted to bring something new home, a container, a shirt, or a cooking tool, she had to remove at least 10 items first. At first, it sounded extreme, but once she started doing it, everything became clearer. Her kitchen cupboard used to make her want to buy another wall-mounted shelf. But after tossing out duplicate tools, expired goods, and unused utensils, the space felt just right. No shelf needed. Her wardrobe once tempted her to expand with a second hanging bar. But after letting go of clothes that didn't fit or hadn't been worn in 2 years, she saw sunlight streaming through the closet for the first time in years. Martha didn't call it a strategy. She didn't label it a tip or a trick. She just said it with a quiet smile. I used to buy things so I wouldn't have to think about letting go. Now I let go, so I don't have to buy anything more. Have you ever done this? Bought something just to cover up the mess instead of facing it head-on? Reverse shopping doesn't require any big effort. It simply shifts the question before you buy. Is what I'm bringing home solving a problem, or just hiding it? If you're holding on to something at home that you bought hoping it would organize your space, but ended up making it more cluttered, share it with us. Someone out there may be thinking the exact same thing. Hack 4. The energy test. Does it recharge or drain you? One autumn morning, Martha went into the storage room to look for her old Christmas box. As she bent down to lift a cardboard box, her back twinged and she paused, taking a slow look around the room. It wasn't the first time she'd been in there, but it was the first time she really looked. Every item, every box, every dusty drawer. And then a clear thought surfaced in her mind. Everything in here is taking something from me. Space, strength, but above all, energy. Martha began doing something very simple. She called it her energy test. She touched each item, looked at it for a few seconds, and asked, "Does this give me energy or drain me?" Her old sewing machine, once a loyal companion, now lay silent under a dusty cloth. She used to think she'd return to it, but each glance only reminded her of unfinished projects and lost momentum. The porcelain dinnerware her mother left her, beautiful, expensive, but never once used. Each time she cleaned it, she felt guilty for not honoring it, yet too hesitant to give it away. A pile of old textbooks from her teaching days, meaningful, but weighted with memories of a career long past. And then she looked at the armchair by the window, a simple, worn-out chair. But every morning, when she sat there to read or sip her coffee, she felt peace. That chair didn't take anything. It gave. Martha slowly walked through her house, mentally labeling each object. Gives energy, drains energy. And her new rule became this: I only keep what energizes me, whether it's a thing, a memory, or a habit. Are you keeping something that makes you sigh every time you see it? Not because it's ugly or broken, but because it reminds you of who you no longer are. We don't need to live in perfect homes. We just need homes that don't drain us every single day. If there's something in your home that always makes you feel heavy, try naming it out loud. You don't have to let it go yet. Just name it. You might find sometimes lightness begins with a simple question. Hack 5. The 1 in 2 out rule. After applying the energy test, Martha felt like her home had become lighter, not just in weight, but in spirit. But life, as always, moved on. There were birthdays, there were gifts, there were things people gave her just because it looked like something you'd love. One day at the supermarket, she saw an air fryer at 60% off, and her heart wanted to take it home. But she didn't want to go back to that old pattern, where every new item added a little more weight to the house. So she made herself a simple rule, one strong enough to stop that spiral. 1 in, 2 out. It wasn't a harsh law. It was more like a quiet ritual, a commitment to herself. Not a rejection of new things, but a gentle promise to always make room when something new enters. Because at 70, space isn't just about physical room. It's about space to breathe, to rest, to live peacefully in your own mind. So when her granddaughter gave her a new blanket, Martha smiled warmly and said thank you. Then she folded 2 old blankets, one worn out, one no longer her taste, and placed them in the donation bag. Not because they weren't valuable anymore, but because when something new comes in, something old must smile and let go. Another time, When she bought a new winter coat, she opened her closet and chose two others, one that didn't fit anymore, one that no longer felt like her, and passed them on. And something surprising happened. The more she followed the one-in, two-out rule, the more refined her taste became. Her wardrobe didn't grow, but it felt more elegant, more intentional, more her. Her closet wasn't fuller, but it was more beautiful. You can try asking yourself, if I bring something new home today, which two things am I ready to let go of to make space for it? It's not about forcing yourself. It's about learning to choose with intention, instead of letting life silently pile things onto your shoulders. Martha once said over coffee with a neighbor, "I'm not afraid of receiving more. I'm only afraid I won't be mindful enough to let go." If you've ever felt overwhelmed by a house full of things, yet still find it hard to refuse a gift from someone you love, try the one-in, two-out rule. And if something comes to mind right now that you could let go of today, share it in the comments. Let's learn to hold on only to what truly matters. Hack 6. The 30-day goodbye zone. A place to let go slowly. Martha once said something honest and raw. "I'm not afraid to let go. I'm just afraid I'll let go of the wrong thing." For older adults, every item isn't just a possession. It's a piece of memory, a reminder of someone, a moment in time, a former version of ourselves. That's why so many, like Martha, want to declutter, but get stuck at the thought, what if I need it someday? What if I regret letting it go? And so, Martha came up with a gentle middle path. She called it her 30-day goodbye zone. She picked a small corner in the garage, not too hidden, not right in the heart of the home. She placed a cardboard box there and wrote the date clearly on it. Then she followed a simple rule. Any item she was unsure about, not ready to keep, not ready to give away, would go into the box. If, in 30 days, she hadn't thought about it, touched it, or missed it, it would be donated. No reopening, no double-checking, no just one last look. Those 30 days were her way of checking in with the truth of her emotions. Here's the surprising part. After 6 months of doing this, Martha hadn't taken back a single item. Not one. She shared, "I was surprised. I used to think I needed everything in my home. But it turns out, most of it was just a habit of holding on, not a real need." That old watch she thought her daughter might want? Her daughter gently said, "Mom, keep it if you love it, but I don't need to hold on to it for the future." The embroidered picture she planned to repair and hang again? It had sat untouched for 4 years. Have you ever held on to something just because you couldn't make a final decision? Because you weren't ready? So you let it sit for 1 more year? And then another? The 30-day goodbye zone doesn't ask you to make instant decisions. It simply asks you to let go for now, and then see if your heart misses it. Hack 7. Visualize your future self. Letting go as an act of love. One afternoon, as Martha was folding a few winter coats, her eyes rested on a large box tucked away in the corner of the closet. Inside were old drawings from her son, a few shirts her late husband used to wear, and even a VHS tape from a Disneyland trip in 1998, for which she no longer had a player. She looked into the box and sat in silence for a long while. And then suddenly, a quiet question surfaced in her mind. If I were gone tomorrow, would my children feel loved or burdened? It wasn't a question of guilt, but a gentle test of intentional letting go. Martha began to picture a future version of herself, a woman in her late 70s or early 80s, needing a neat, navigable, and comfortable space to rest. She imagined what she would bring with her if she ever had to move into a smaller apartment. Not 40 boxes of memories, just a few items that still touched her deeply. And more than that, she imagined her daughter, Maria, someday opening these closets. She asked herself, will my child feel closer to me by seeing 7 boxes of old books? Or will she feel overwhelmed, not knowing where to begin? Martha didn't want to leave behind a pile of stuff. She wanted to leave behind meaning, stories, recipes, a handwritten letter, a photo from that one perfect picnic, not objects whose original purpose had long been forgotten. Have you ever thought of this? That letting go today isn't because you don't need something, but because you don't want someone else to have to decide for you later? Visualizing your future self is a gentle way to make decisions in the present. It doesn't pressure you. It simply asks, if this were the last move you'd ever make, what would you bring? And if your grandchildren were to remember you by something, would it be that old iron or the photo of you smiling in a garden in 1995? Hack 8. Practice moving. Pretend to leave so you know what truly matters. One weekend morning, while cleaning the living room, Martha paused in the middle of her familiar space and quietly asked herself, if I had to move tomorrow to a smaller apartment, taking only 2 suitcases and a few boxes, what would I bring? It wasn't out of fear, it was out of honesty. Because at a certain age, we all know the day will come when we must move to a place that's easier to manage, more peaceful, or simply better suited for our health and changing needs. So that day, Martha began a small rehearsal. She didn't rush to throw anything away. She simply prepared 2 white cardboard boxes and placed them in the living room. Then she walked slowly through each room and asked herself, do I really need this item? Is this meaningful enough to come with me if I could only take one small moving truck? Or am I just keeping this because I've never questioned letting it go? Her favorite armchair? Of course, it stayed. The small radio, with a recording of her husband's voice from 1991, she hugged it close without hesitation. The family photo by the Christmas tree, it went straight into the first box. But what about the unopened boxes from her move 6 years ago? The commemorative mugs she'd never used, the stack of old teaching materials from a career that ended 15 years earlier. She looked at them, sighed, and realized if she had to leave now, they wouldn't come with her. This practice move wasn't to prepare for something tragic. It was a way to clearly see what we're truly living with and what we're holding on to without real reason. Have you ever imagined needing to move house in just 1 week? What would you bring? What would you leave behind, and is there something that might bring tears to your eyes, not from sadness, but because you finally dared to face it and let it go? After her little rehearsal, Martha shared, I didn't just learn what I needed. I learned who I am right now. Hack 9. The intentional goodbye. Turning letting go into a meaningful ritual. One sunny afternoon, Martha sat at the wooden table on her porch. On the table lay a pale blue dress, the one she wore on her 60th birthday. It was the last time her whole family gathered together. The dress was still beautiful, but she no longer wore it. Not because it was too tight or worn, but because she had moved past that season of her life. A few years ago, Martha would have quietly folded it, placed it in a donation bag, and never looked back. But this time, she did something different. She placed it on a chair, poured herself a warm cup of tea, and did something that seemed small. She looked at the dress for a long time and whispered, "Thank you for walking with me through such a beautiful day. Now, let's part ways." so someone else can create new memories. No one had taught her this, but she felt lighter than ever. And so whenever she needed to part with an emotionally meaningful item, Martha created a little farewell ritual for herself. A word of thanks, a gentle hug, even a small note capturing what that item once meant to her. Not everyone needs to do this, but for many people, when objects hold memories, letting them go deserves respect. Because what makes decluttering difficult isn't the number of things, but the emotions that were never fully acknowledged. When you turn letting go into a ritual, however simple, you send a message to your own heart. You have lived long enough to cherish and brave enough to let go. Are you holding on to something that reminds you of a person, a chapter, or a turning point? Have you ever tried saying thank you and letting it go as a way to gently heal yourself? If not, try it once, because sometimes a simple whisper can lift a burden that's been sitting in your heart for years. If there's something you've said goodbye to but still remember, feel free to share that story, or simply write, "I'm also learning to let go." You are not alone on this journey. Decluttering after 60 isn't a task, it's a journey. No one can force you to give up what you're not ready to release. No one fully understands the emotions wrapped in every item you hold. But you, someone who's lived through so many seasons, carry a gift few others still have. Depth in every decision you make. You don't need to clean the whole house in one afternoon. You only need to begin with a breath and a choice. It might be a scarf you no longer use, a photo you want to place in a new frame, or maybe a small box where you keep only the things that make you smile, not cry. Today's decluttering hacks aren't just about tidying up your space. They're small doorways back to peace, ways to reclaim a sense of control over your home and your heart. You may not follow them all, but if even one speaks to you and you make it your own, that's more than enough. Because in the end, decluttering isn't about living with less. It's about living more with what truly matters. If you're still here, thank you for giving this time to yourself. Tell me, where will you begin? A drawer, a bookshelf, or a corner of your memories? If something in this video made you smile, share it in the comments. And if what we share feels like it's meant for you, don't forget to hit subscribe to walk with Senior Rise each week. We'll always be here, with stories that touch the heart and gentle reminders that you deserve a tidy home and a soul that feels light.